How do like how do you get an opportunity to study abroad?
You have studied?
The government, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, government bursaries.
Government bursaries.
Yeah.
Did you get any government bursary or?
Yeah. So basically there are two ways. There's one that is supplemented by the government. Like the one that I was on is both by the Russian government and the Zambian government. So the Russian government pays your tuition, then the Zambian government pays your upkeep. So your book allowance, your meal allowance and things like that, as well as your flight tickets.
And accommodation?
Ideally the accommodation is also part of what you get from the meal allowance, but that one is not standard because it depends on where you are.
Just come a bit closer.
Okay. If you are in Moscow, for example, you're going to spend way more on accommodation as compared to somebody who is in, let's say, Obninsk.
When you went to study in Russia, you were in Moscow?
Yes.
Or Moscow? How do you pronounce it?
In Russian, it's Moskva.
Moskva.
Yes. Then in English, it's Moscow. I was actually in two cities, so I did what you would call maybe NS. That is the language as well as pre-medical programs in a different city and at a different university. Then once I was done with my first year, then I went to my university where I now continued with my main specialty.
Okay.
So I would say I was in two different cities and two different universities.
How is it like studying in Russia? Russia.
So the biggest challenge, obviously,
because I've heard a lot of stories about Russia, of course.
Yeah.
Most of them negative, but
you're watching a little of American movies.
Maybe. But maybe the nice story I've heard is that they've got nice babes.
So when you look at Russia and Zambia, there are a lot of ideological differences. From a cultural perspective, it's really, really different. Here in Z, it's normal and natural to smile at somebody, even if it's a stranger. You smile at a stranger in Russia and you'll be looked at like you're weird or something.
So it was something to, it's a culture.
It's a culture. They are a bit serious, if I can use that word. If I don't know you, I can find you crying by the road and I'll pass you. I won't be bothered to ask what's wrong with you. So from a cultural point, obviously there are certain things that I needed to learn so that I don't come off a bit disrespectful. I'll give you an example. It's respectful here to call your teachers and lecturers by their surname. In Russia, you call them by their first and middle name. You don't call them by their surname. So if you call them by their surname, it comes off a bit disrespectful. You use the first name and the patriarchy name. It's standard, it's like that. But here it's the opposite. You can't call your lecturer by his or her first name.
That was a cultural shock, huh?
Yeah. So there's that cultural shock that you get. Then obviously the weather as well. Russia is cold for like 7-8 months of the year. You are in negatives of the temperature. So that comes with its own problems. Sometimes if your immune system is not that strong, you can even get sick. So you find having flu vaccines every year just to make sure that you protect yourself until your immune system adapts to a level where you can be able to survive through the winter without like getting really, really sick. The language is the biggest barrier because you have been speaking a different language all of your life. You have been in school from grade 1 to 12 learning in English, and you are given a short period of time to learn, and you have to begin to understand scientific terms, articles, and and if it's medical related programs, you are dealing with life. Not that other programs are not important, but you are dealing with life and you want to get your facts right in a way. So it was a bit difficult, especially in the first 2 years. Not that I think I'm way too smart, but I've seen a lot of colleagues who just said, you know what, I can't do this. And sometimes it also depends on where you come from. If you think there's an option back home, just throw in the towel and go home and study in English. So I would say the language was a big barrier. The culture was not really a big barrier, but I needed to be careful in how I relate with people, and also the weather.
Okay. Talking about like different countries, I think, Bright, we've never done a trivia here.
No.
I can do like a quick trivia. Which, say you wanted to go on a vacation
Yeah.
Which country would you go to, and why?
All right. So if I wanted to go on a vacation, I think I would go to the Bahamas. It's well advertised, and I think, at least from what I've seen, it looks like a very, very good place to be at.
I think I would go to Ibiza.
Ibiza.
You've talked about it, yeah?
Yes.
What's nice about it?
It looks fun.
Yeah.
It's fun, just
Fun and
Ibiza.
very nice,
Where would I go? There's Italy seems to have some of the
Yes.
Italy or Greece.
Yeah.
And some pasta and some original pizza.
But BMW or Benz?
I would go for a Benz.
Why?
I love that car.
Why?
I love it. I don't know. I just like it. It
BMW
looks
or
great.
Benz, right?
BMW. 3 Series.
Why?
I don't.
John, are you a material person? Are you a material person?
No.
I don't know. The problem that I have maybe with like the Benz issue is that I think things have been materialized so much
Alright.
that you think that if somebody has a Benz, they have got money and they're well to do. You know what I mean?
You know,
But it's never the case.
I think it's about how the brand is sold. When you look at an iPhone, for example, there isn't so much that you can, that if you're just an average guy, maybe the same thing with, let's say, a MacBook. Unless you are doing the graphic designing, you're editing videos, but an average user of an iPhone or a MacBook, there isn't so much that you can do with an iPhone that you can do with a Samsung. But there's a way in which an iPhone is marketed that it brings a certain lifestyle with it, that when you have it, you just feel like you're leading a certain type of life.
You know what? Me too. I feel like that. I just have this thing. You know, when if somebody is not using an iPhone, I'm like,
You see?
I don't. Yeah.
You think like they're missing something.
It's like you can have an Android phone, but at least have an iPhone somewhere.
Yeah.
I don't know.
So I think with cars it's the same. They are marketed in a way that when you associate yourself with the brand, it makes you feel a certain way. When in the actual sense, a vehicle is a vehicle. Man, if you eat a port wall or you eat a waffles, you are going to see Moses. You will see Moses or something. Either
All
way.
right. I forgot to even introduce ourselves. So, welcome to another episode of the ZamChat podcast. My name is Joe Kanema, the podcast junkie. And behind the camera, we have the guy behind the camera, of course, is Bright Ulenga. So today we'll be chatting. I think we're taking a little bit of a different turn. We have Joseph MWILA. You're actually a doctor, right?
Doctor of Pharmacy, yes.
Yeah, he's the doctor of pharmacy, yeah. So we have Dr. Joseph MWILA. So we're going to be discussing his book. It's titled Undeserved Rights. So we're going to be chatting and basically just getting to understand what the book is all about. And I've read the book myself, and I thought it's an interesting book. We can have a discussion around this and just to try and pick your mind and understand why you wrote this book. So when you were coming up with, or basically the thought behind this book, because I'm an author myself, and sometimes you are like stuck between a rock and a hard place. Like, how do you find the right words? How do you find the right rhythm when you are coming up with a book? What was going through your mind, or basically to start with, what inspired the idea of you writing this particular book?
All right. Thank you so much for having me.
And what it's all about.
All right. So Undeserved Rights is a book that mostly talks about responsibility. Because I sat down and thought, and obviously as a result of also observing the environment around me, I realized that you cannot grow as an individual if you do not hold yourself accountable and responsible for anything that happens, either positive or negative. All right? But it's not so much about the positives because we are too quick to attach ourselves to success. But most of the times we don't attach ourselves when something wrong happens. And I observed this throughout my journey. It could be in relationships, there's this female colleague I had, and she didn't have really luck in terms of the dating market. And sometimes we'd sit and talk, and she'd tell me she had dated 4 or 5 guys, and I would ask what went wrong, and so she'd tell me how this guy was a dog, how this guy was a what, this. So then I sit and wonder, like, so you're telling me I've dated 5 people, and you have been an angel throughout this period, and then all of these guys that you meet have different vices. Don't you think there's something that attracts this type of guys in you? If at all you want to look at yourself as an angel. So Undeserved Rights came as a book that I thought would help young people to learn to be accountable and look within themselves before they look outside. So if something good happens, if you're a Christian, you can say God's divine certain attributes within yourself. It could be your discipline, it could be your consistency. These are things that are helping you achieve what you want to achieve. The same way when something goes wrong, it could be your inconsistency, your inadequacy, it could be your lack of preparation. Look at these things before you look at, no, it's the weather, no, Mr. Joe doesn't like me, this and that. Because I can't control how Mr. Joe relates to me, but I can control how I relate to things that I do. So I'm advocating for young people to be responsible, hold themselves accountable, then they can look at external factors that might contribute to either their success or their failure. Mm-hmm. So in the book I discuss quite a number of things, but everything revolves around that. The title Undeserved Rights, I had quite a number of titles, but I wanted a title that would provoke a thought. Because growing up we've been told we are born with rights. Rights are inherent, and we're just born with them. So then I wanted to tell you that you don't deserve these rights. And I was intending is to provoke a thought, like, what do you mean I don't deserve my rights? Because these are gifts that were naturally given by being born. But what I'm trying to say is, if you are given rights as an individual, rights are not given to you as a gift because you are a human being. I have a friend who is a lawyer, she was arguing this point. I was like, you're looking at it from a low point of view, but the point I'm trying to put across is you and I did not do anything to be born. Thanks to mom and dad, we were here, but we didn't work hard. Like, I worked so hard, and I was born in UTH. We didn't do anything. So we don't deserve the reward of a right. Rights are given to us in anticipation that when we give you the ability to have freedom of movement, you're going to use it to better your life and the lives of people around you. If we give you the right of freedom of speech, we expect that with this freedom of speech, you bring out the knowledge and the wisdom within you to speak and better the environment that you are at. So I don't look at rights as a gift you are given for being a human being. I look at it as an incentive you are given in order for you to bring out the best that you can for yourself and people around you. So if you don't use that incentive to its intended purpose, then you don't deserve them. Hence undeserved rights.
Interesting. By the way, today we are shooting back-to-back episodes. So we are still at Zook Studios here in Kalingalinga along Ali Kinkata Road. I just thought I should say that because I think there's Zooks in the background. Yeah. So you've mentioned that you talked about rights. Let's say, for instance, the right to life.
Yes.
For instance, and you've mentioned that you've given an example where a child was born, mm-hmm. and they've actually never done anything to deserve the right to life. And I think that maybe before we get even into the juice of the conversation, just so that everybody is able to understand, what are rights?
All right.
Yeah.
So
we can build our conversation from there.
If I define rights from our civic education and our civics, these are entitlements that human beings are given by virtue of them being human. All right. So from that aspect, we are looking at rights as something that any person who is human gets. If you go into the intricacies of law, you find that rights are entitlements that individuals who belong to a political or geographical jurisdiction are given for the betterment of their lives and the betterment of the environment that they are in. But both of these angles are looking at rights as something that a person deserves for just being who they are. But then I was trying to look at it from this angle, because I've heard a lot of young people say that I've got the right to this, you can't tell me this, I have the right to this. And then it makes me wonder, like, wait a minute. So why is it that some people back then sat down and said, you know what, let's make the right to life. Nobody should kill anybody. Let's make the right to marry. A person should have the right to marry and settle a family. What was going through their mind when they were coming up with this right? Was it that they said, let's make the right to life so that when Joseph grows up, he's going to become a criminal? No. They believed that if we allow Joseph to grow up, there's a possibility that one day he'll be a pharmacist, one day he'll be an author, one day he'll be a president, and through him, many other people will be saved or educated. So let's protect him while he's young, so that when he grows up, he'll be able to contribute positively to society. So I look at rights, imagine a promotion, something that I also talk about in the book. When your boss promotes you, of course he looks at what you have done in the past, obviously, but the main focus of your promotion does not end after you're promoted. If anything, your boss looks at, let's say, Joseph and says, well, Joseph is committed, he's hardworking, I think I want to promote him to a position of manager. What the employer is looking at is how best can him having more power and responsibility better my company. So it's not me now that I've gotten the promotion. Now I'm coming for work at 12 hours. I'm ever on my phone when I'm at work. And this is what we do with rights. We are born, given the rights, freedom of speech, then we just say whatever we want without regard of how they are impacting other people. I've got the freedom of movement. I now have to just move anyhow, even when I'm endangering myself and other people. But I'm looking at it like you have the freedom of movement, because we understand that if Joe Kanema can move from Lusaka to go to Kitu and is going to impact the lives of people there, let's allow him to move, because his movement is impacting positively wherever he is. If today you move from Lusaka to Kitu and you go and kill people there, we'll throw you in cells. What have we done? We have stripped away the freedom of movement, because we now understand that you're not using it for its intended purpose. So I look at rights from a retrospective purpose, if you like. I look at it as an incentive we give you to better your life and the lives of people, and not just singing about it. I deserve this, I deserve that, but what are you using it for?
So what you're basically saying is that you have got rights, for instance, but you also have to be responsible.
Yes.
You have to be a responsible person. You have to be held accountable.
Yes.
For what you are doing with those rights that you've been given.
Yes.
You've been given, for instance, the right to freedom of speech.
Yes.
But you're not supposed to go outside and just start insulting everybody. Mm-hmm. But you have to be responsible
with how you
use that particular power, that particular entitlement that you have, right?
Exactly. Mm-hmm. Because we believe that if we can allow you to speak your mind, we are allowing you to bring out the thoughts that you have that possibly will help you stay sane in the first instance, and secondly is going to contribute positively. Look at what we're doing here. We have a podcast. You have, established this magnificent platform. What are you trying to do? You're trying to impact people's lives by bringing different speakers here who have gone through different situations, and hopefully somebody watching there will find something meaningful. So it makes sense that you have this right of expression and freedom of speech, because we have seen that you are using it to positively impact society. So when we give it to you, we are open and praying that you use it positively so that it can be a positive force out there. We are not hoping that you make this podcast and now every day you are insulting people, you are shaming people, you are bringing people down. That's not why we're doing it. If anything, right now, if it's YouTube, there are guidelines now and policies. If you say something that's against them, they'll ban you or something. Mm-hmm. Because they understand that, bro, we gave you these rights to positively impact people, but you're not using it. So we're not really punishing you, we're just removing the incentive that we gave you, because we understand that you're not using it to its intended purpose.
So here in the book you mention about entitlement. Obviously, you defined rights as a certain entitlement. What makes people feel so entitled to a particular thing that they don't care so much to be responsible for that thing? What makes people feel so entitled to certain things, for instance?
Yeah. So in the book, again, as you have said, I discuss entitlement and I give quite a number of reasons. And one of them is how we were brought up. All right. I gave an example of a colleague of mine who was a child. So he has this little boy, and one day he was telling me, I was in the living room watching some football, then my son came, grabbed the remote, changed the channel and sat. We laughed about it. But then I sat and said, you know what? If this boy grows up with a mentality of, whenever I want to watch something, I should watch it regardless of who is watching. He's going to reach a point in society when he grows up.
Because otherwise society is not going to give you
a chance to go and change
whatever channel that you want.
Of course not. When you go out there, you have to fight for what you want. Nobody's just going to present it to you. So now, if you grow up with that mindset where, and just not to digress a bit, I once I read 12 Rules for Life by Dr. Jordan Peterson. And one thing he said in his book was that kids cry for two reasons. They cry when they're in pain, and they cry when they need attention. All right? If you have observed, when a child is crying, what do we do most of the times? If we know the child likes sweet, we give them sweet. If we know the child likes a tablet, we give them the tablet. What are we doing? We're rewarding that behavior. So now the child understands that when I want to attract daddy's attention, I should cry. He's going to give me the sweet, he's going to give me the tablet. If he's watching football, he will change the channel and put to my channel. All right? So children are not stupid.
Children are corny.
They are not stupid.
Yeah, they are corny.
Children are not, like scientific, even sucking. Sometimes kids bite their mothers. They are biting to assess the territory. Because, you know, when a child is born, it's a blank sheet. They don't know what's allowed and what's not allowed. So a child will come and slap your face. You don't do anything. They know now it's okay to slap. They are sucking milk, they bite. The mother doesn't do anything. It's okay to bite. So when a child is like young, they are trying out so many things. And they are trying to see what are the boundaries here. What can I do and what can I not do? So this child who goes in the living room and switches on the channel that they want whenever they want will reach a point when they grow up, they go to uni, they graduate as a pharmacist, they apply for a job and they're not picked. And then they'll be shocked. Why am I not picked? Because they grew up, whatever they wanted, whenever they wanted it, they'll be given. So they'll grow up with this entitled mentality where they don't think they have to work for anything. They have to get whatever they want whenever they want to get it. So upbringing is very important. And this goes to, I think, parents. I'm not one, but I think it's something that really, really affects how children view life as they grow up. Secondly, I think culture also plays a role. And I would give an example of our African culture. So in our African culture, there is this belief that if you're a child of a community, all right? So if you are doing well at the family level, literally everybody in your family feels they are entitled to whatever success that you have. Much worse if you are running a business and they know it's working well. Somehow, you know, we fail to differentiate that this money belongs to the business and this money belongs to me as an individual. You can't tell your niece or your nephew that you don't have money if they came to your pharmacy and they found it's fully packed. Like, what done you do?
Yeah, because they feel entitled to you.
Yes. How can you say he doesn't have money?
By the virtue of you being their relative,
yes,
or the brother,
yes,
I'm entitled to his money. So why should you say no to me?
Of course. And I went to the shop, I found there were things there. Not knowing that maybe there are partners that you have in that organization. You might be the face of that company, but probably you're not alone. You have got employees to pay, you have got bills to pay. So we also have this entitlement as family members where we think if my uncle is rich, he's supposed to pay for my university. I've seen people who are bitter, like, my uncle is rich, he never paid for my university. Bro, if he pays for you, well and good. But he's not mandated to pay for you. It's not his duty. All right? So I think we also develop this sense of entitlement based on how our culture and our upbringing is in the family that we are or the environment that we grow up in. And this in itself also makes us, grow up into individuals who are entitled. The other thing also is if you grow up in a place where you were really rewarded even for not doing anything. You know, these days, I was listening again to somebody who was saying, these days we even get certificates of participation in a competition. Back then, there was nothing like that. They will give a certificate to number 1, number 2, and number 3, and it ends there. These days, we have 20 kids participating, all of them will get certificates. So, we have taken away that instance of a rewarding success, where now kids from as early as nursery school, and again, I'm not banishing this, but nowadays there are even graduations to move from preschool to nursery with gowns and everything. But the point I'm trying to put across is, if every little thing you do, you are rewarded for it, even the things that you should just naturally do, you'll grow up thinking, you know what, I woke up today, someone should reward me. I wrote a test, I didn't get a good mark, but I should still get a reward.
Is it bad though to feel entitled?
No, I think there is healthy entitlement and pathological entitlement. So if, for example, I'm 35 years old, I have a viable program that I think can benefit my country, Zambia. I have a political party, and I think I have people who support me. I think it's well enough that I can be entitled to want to be president because I meet all the prerequisites that I'm supposed to meet. So that's a very healthy entitlement. If, for example, I'm married and I think I'm doing my best as a husband and as a father, I think if I come home and I'm disrespected, I'm well in my, I think, realm to be entitled to get a specific type of respect in a way because I think I'm doing what I'm supposed to do. What's pathological is when, for example, I go to the hospital, I find a long queue, and somehow I want to cut the queue and go in front. Come on, people who are lined up are not there to fill up seats or something. So there is this type of entitlement where, for example, just because my uncle has money, I feel he should be able to share some with me. Just because Mr. Joe, I know him, we're in the same circles, yesterday, you know, he bought his car, he's supposed to be giving me a lift. Come on. If he gives you, thank God, but he's not entitled or he's not mandated to do it. So there's this pathological entitlement where we want to get something without doing absolutely nothing at all. Just exist, just smile, look nice, and people should reward you for that. You know, I laugh when I hear people talk about, I'm paying my own bills. Who is supposed to pay your own bills? Especially if you're an adult, be it male or female. You're supposed to pay your own bills. You are renting a house. You live in there, you should pay. You are eating every day, you should pay. No one should come and clap for you that you're buying your own food. Let's reward you. So that mentality where you want to be rewarded for things that are necessity for you to exist as a human being, I look at that as very, very pathological. And you know, it puts a burden on the people that you're interacting with. Because as human beings, we don't live in an island. We're not islands. We interact with people around us. So in the book, I say, whatever you think your rights are somebody else's responsibilities. If I think I've got the right to silence, you should not be talking. If I think I've got the right to education, somebody has to pay my education, my school fees, somebody has to go to school and become a teacher, somebody has to build a classroom, somebody has to make a desk. Whatever I think my rights are cannot be enjoyed if other people do not take up some responsibility somewhere else. So even as I use my rights, I should be responsible enough and also understand that these rights do not fall from the sky. There are people who are actively taking up responsibilities to make sure I enjoy whatever I want to enjoy. If I've got the right to live in a peaceful environment, there's a police officer somewhere, there's a soldier somewhere who is spending sleepless nights to ensure that the skies and the land are protected.
Just speak to the fact that we need to be responsible. These rights that we've been given come with a responsibility. As young people, how do we ensure that we are responsible by these entitlements that are there? Yeah.
I think it begins with realizing what I've just said. Whatever you think your right is, it's somebody else's responsibility. If I think I've got the right to education,
somebody else is paying.
Someone had to pay for it.
Yeah.
Directly or indirectly, somebody has to pay for it. Somebody had to teach me. Somebody has to create a conducive environment for me to enjoy that right.
If you think you have the right to life, someone else gave birth to you.
Definitely.
Maybe they went through a C-section, went
See?
through a difficult
Almost
situation.
dying.
Yeah.
Almost dying. There has to be a mom who sacrificed. And even before we talk about birth, she had to endure the 9 months period. All right. Your father, if he was around at that particular time, he has to ensure he supported your mother throughout that period, or whoever was around. There had to be some doctor who went to school and studied. There had to be a nurse. There had to be somebody to build a hospital. So whatever you think your right to life is now is not starting from where you are when you're born. People had put things in place to allow you to enjoy this right. So don't you think it's sensible enough that you should equally pick up some responsibilities? Because the continuation of these rights depends on you and me. If I enjoyed the rights some few years ago, whoever that is coming after me, their ability to enjoy their rights is dependent on the choices and decisions I make now. If I lead my life in a reckless way, I'm going to create a society that will make it difficult for my kids and whoever is that going to come to enjoy the rights that I enjoyed. So the responsibility comes in when we understand that our rights are responsibilities other people pick on, and therefore we should reciprocate this action to ensure that we continue on this trajectory. Secondly, you can never find meaning in life if you don't take on responsibilities. Personally, I strongly believe in this. As a guy, I would talk to this. I think one of the things that makes especially a father really proud and happy is when he knows that he has provided a roof for his wife and kids. He's providing food for his wife and kids. They are going to school, they are well dressed. There's just a certain sense of fulfillment you feel because you know that there's something I'm doing and there's a human being who looks up to me and their life is well because of what I've done. You know, someone was saying the reason why you have a lot of men in prison is because men find it really hard to make proper choices when they have nothing to do. Like if you just leave a guy just in the open, no aim whatsoever, they are not working on anything, no responsibilities, a man can't truly exist in that way. You need to have something that you are doing. And in most cases, if you don't direct that energy in the right way, you find yourself doing something which in most cases, in other cases, might be abrogating the law. So I think you cannot find the true meaning in life as an individual, whether man or woman, if you don't have some sort of responsibilities. And that responsibility starts with yourself. Starts by making sure you're responsible for the type of person you're becoming. And indeed, that is going to make a ripple effect to people who are within your surrounding. Because I think whatever you do, it affects people around you, unless you live in an island.
I just want to add on a question on top of that, because I think you've touched on an important topic. So, as people, how do we sort of condition ourselves to become responsible to become responsible people, to become responsible over these rights that we've been given? What basically should we do, especially speaking to young people, for instance, who perhaps don't have that purpose in life? How do they try? Because like you mentioned, it's after you are given a certain purpose. If you mentioned a man is just thrown there without a certain purpose, without something to do, obviously there are higher chances that they will end up doing something wrong.
Yes.
So how do we condition ourselves to be responsible enough to take up responsibility?
I think it starts with, again, the environment where we're in. And it's a responsibility, I think, of parents and guardians to create environments that teach kids to be responsible and accountable. I'll give you an example.
So it basically starts from the house.
Yes, because I strongly believe we are born as plain papers, for lack of a better term. All right, we are born as plain papers, and as we go, we tend to start writing on these plain papers. And what we write are things that we learn passively and things that are taught to us directly. So if, for example, I've grown up and I see my dad going for work every single day in the morning, he comes back in the evening, maybe on weekends he's doing some lifting at home, maybe, cutting some grass or stuff like that. This is the ideal of what a man is supposed to be that I'm getting. Same thing can apply to a lady, all right? That's why you find that in most cases, not to say anything negative about people who come from, let's say, single parenthood families, but in most cases, if that person does not take proactive actions to like really bridge the gap, they find it very difficult even when they grow up to meet and, you know, find, like, be a great partner to whoever they're going to be. Because if I grow up in a place where there was no father figure in my life, and I can read books all I want, but if from the time I was 0 to the time I was 20, all I saw was a dad maybe who was irresponsible, never doing anything, it becomes difficult for me to picture what I'm supposed to do when I become a dad at some point, you know. So I think it begins from where we are, and it's incumbent on us to create that environment for the generation that is coming after us. Then secondly, also, there might be people maybe who might not have had that opportunity to grow up in an environment that was conducive. Again, I think you need first to accept, all right, to acknowledge that I might have grown up in an environment which deprived me of certain lessons, and I have to actively seek those lessons. I hear a lot of people who say, I don't even shoot the quotes. And then you hear what they are saying. It's like stuff that is destructive, you know, stuff that is not, I mean, say the truth, but sometimes the way you bring out whatever you are bringing out determines whether you get the results that you want to get. So, in Ife, my auntie, this is how she is. My mom, this is how we are. Sometimes we have these environments that we grow up in that are negative, and we embrace them when we grow up. We don't want to get out of them. We even have friends that encourage us. Ah, the boy. You know, you even sing that song that's there now. You know, so I think also if you realize you didn't grow up in that environment, accept that you have a certain pathological, maybe that's a strong word, but accept that you lacked something when you're growing up and actively seek that. And once you actively seek that, I think it begins to bridge that gap that you had, and obviously helps you pick on some responsibility as you grow up.
There's a part where you say being good is not being good enough.
It's not, yeah, yes.
For you to be able to get something out of life, but you need to understand certain things.
Yes.
I just want you to touch on that, what you really meant to say being good is not good enough in life. If you want to get somewhere, you need to understand certain things, you need to learn certain principles.
So I give a story that I found in, there's a book called Why Bad Things Happen to Good People. And in that book, there's a story of two ladies. So there's this lady at uni who was all over the show. She was dating, you know, engaging in premarital sex and all those type of things we consider bad, you know. And there's this other girl, you know, virgin, never dates, serious about school and church, and graduates 5 years down the line. This lady was promiscuous, she's married, and, you know, she has a good life, and the other lady is not. And when you look at that, you'll be like, life is unfair, man. But then, the fact that this lady was good when she was in uni does not mean that she does not need to understand. I'm a lady. What is it that a man wants in a lady? What do I need to do to present myself in an attractive way? And I'm not saying undress or stuff like that, but what do I need to do to present myself as a worthy partner for somebody to look at me and think I can spend my life with this person? So if this girl is just being good, but she does not understand what, for example, a partner will need, what type of a person she needs to make a good partner, people will go and say, oh, she's a good lady. Yeah, she's my sister anyway. But people can't find that need of wanting to be with that lady because they think she doesn't understand what it takes. We can use this example even in business, all right? The fact that I'm a Christian, I don't kill, I don't do all those bad things, does not mean my business is going to succeed. I still need to understand, where am I? All right, have I done my SWOT analysis? Have I done my step analysis? Have I positioned myself in an environment that makes it favorable for my business to run? So the fact that I'm a good guy, the fact that I'm a Christian, the fact that I fast every day will not randomly bring people into my shop when I've opened a shop in a population of 100 people and I'm expecting 1 million people to come. Where will they come from? So the fact that you are good is not an excuse that life will give you to excuse you from certain principles that you need to learn. The good people and the bad people. But what you need to do now is to understand, when does the rain start? What's the soil profile in my area? What plants should I plant? When do I harvest? You need to understand this. The rain will rain regardless. You might be a good or a bad person. So that's what I try to discuss, that it's not important, it's not only that you should be a good person, but you should understand the area where you are in and understand what's needed of you in order to get the results that you want to get. It could be in university, it could be in a relationship or marriage setup, it could be in business. You need to understand, apply those principles, and you get the results that you want to get. Unlike just believing I'm a good person. And this is what gives birth now to what? To the entitlement mentality, where you're entitled to a business succeeding because you're a good person. And when the business doesn't work, it goes now to the next chapter I talk about, which is victimhood now. You start looking at yourself as a victim.
Yeah. Why do you think these things happen to me?
As a person who is who runs a business, obviously you understand at some point maybe something went wrong at your institution and you ask the people there, and everyone is pointing at the other person. What happened? No, it's not me. No. Or if you have just grown up in a home where there are a lot of kids, who broke this cup? This one points at this one points at this one, the other one points at that one. Because we are not willing to take responsibility. But when we take responsibility, we look at ourselves and say, I broke this cup. What should I do next time so that I don't break it? I should be more careful. I should look out. I shouldn't put it at this place. I should put it there. And I think these principles apply in life. So that's what I try to communicate there, that don't just think that because you're a good person, you're going to have a good partner, you start a business, your business will boom, you go to uni A+ throughout. You can be a saint and you get an F.
I think what I'm getting, I think the take-home message from this book is that you don't deserve anything in life. You have to work for it.
Yes.
You're not entitled to anything.
Yes.
You have to go there and work for it.
Yeah.
Nobody owes you anything.
No. And with rights, there's something that I discussed. So rights are viewed in two different ways. There's what they call the compensatory notion and the promissory notion. So the compensatory notion, it's a reward you get after you do something. So we're kind of compensating you, all right? It's like a salary, all right? You work from 1st to 30th of the month and you get a salary. We're compensating you. So there are philosophers who look at rights from a compensatory point of view, where we think you only deserve your rights if you have done A, B, C, D. Then there is a promissory notion where we give you something in anticipation that you're going to use it to do A, B, C, D. All right? So there are equally other philosophers as well who look at it from that angle, that we are giving you these rights, not because you have done anything, but because we believe without them, you won't be a better person. With them, you're going to use them and become a better person. So what I'm trying to put across is, whatever type of life you think you deserve, nobody is coming to upload it in your home or in your gadget or anywhere. It's up to you to wake up and work towards it. Only when you work towards it, then you deserve it. You can't just get up today and say, me, I deserve a mansion. Where is it going to come from? You have to work. Me, I deserve I deserve a promotion. If you're knocking off at 1550, you're already at the gate. How do you deserve a promotion in that way? All right, it's that guy that is willing to put in the extra hour. It's that guy that is willing to bring in innovative ideas at the place that is going to deserve the promotion. So nothing comes on a silver platter, and whatever that you think is free, in a way you are paying for it in one way or the other. So work for what you want to work, then you deserve it. If you don't work for it, you don't deserve it, Mdala.
Undeserved rights. Chatting with you. I don't know if you have got any last words that you can say regarding this wonderful book that you've written here.
All I'd like to just say is, I know we're in an age and era where most of us don't read as much, and I think with the development of technology, we find it very difficult to focus. It's like really, really hard for someone to just focus on one thing and finish. You find yourself checking your phone, you find yourself listening to this. We're doing a whole lot of things. But what I can just say is, you cannot lead if you do not read. All right? And by lead, I don't even talk about you becoming a president or a leader of a big organization, even just yourself. You can only lead yourself if you enrich your mind with information that is positively impacting you. And at one point or the other, you'll be a father or a mother. At one point or the other, you'll be a supervisor at work. People will be looking up to you. You want to ensure that you have the tools that are necessary enough to equip you to be that positive role model to yourself firstly and to people around you. And I think Undeserved Rights is that step in that right direction. It's not the key to heaven, but I think it's that book that helps you realize the things that you need to focus on and helps you begin a journey of responsibility. It's not a book of motivation whatsoever. If anything, sometimes you find things that will hurt you a bit, like, hey man, did you just say that about me? But I think that provocative aspect is what makes you move out of your uncomfortable position and begin to look at things from an angle that I'm on my own in this life. If someone comes to help me, thank God. But if they don't owe me anything.
Interesting. Is this book available in any bookstore?
So I'm pushing to have it available in Book World, but currently it's available in soft copy as well for some. Like I think Mr. Bright said, "Inena temama soft copy."
Amazon Kindle.
On Amazon Kindle, yes, it's
okay.
there. I'm working on recording an audio version of it as well. Somebody was telling me, I didn't shop at that time, so if I can just be listening to it while I'm going for work, it would help.
Interesting.
So I'm working on an audio version as well. It should be out probably in a month or two from now.
Okay.
So it will be in hard copy, soft copy, and audio version as well. I think that would be the best for any person, depending on their interest, to read or listen or find the hard copy.
If somebody wants a copy of this book, where can they?
So for now, they can call me. Firstly, my line is +260 0972 046748. They can find me on my Facebook. That's MWILA Joseph M. That's my page. Equally at the YouTube channel where I post some of the stuff regarding the book and many other things. Or they can write to my email at josephmwila28@gmail.com. I think any of those options can work.
Well, there you have it. We were chatting with Dr. You are Doctor.
And it was published before I was doctor, so we'll put it on the next one.
So Dr. Joseph MWILA, Undeserved Rights. So that was another episode of the ZamChat podcast. Until next time, bye.
Thank you.